it's crucial that we think about power in relation to political action. And political action in the sense of trying to actually achieve a transformation within a social system. The failure of so many endeavors, resistance movements, is that they do not first begin by calculating power, which ultimately amounts to a calculation of an insufficiency of power and where the power essentially lies within a system. So responsible activism should calculate exactly what it is up against in terms of power. And from this understanding of what it's facing, it should try to determine whether or not the resistance activities that it wants to partake in is actually worth doing it. The reason is because if resistance activities are ultimately crushed by power, then it can be the case that the act of trying to alter conditions within a certain way fails. And it can fail in a multitude of ways. It can fail not just in the sense that the individuals involved are crushed by power. It can also fail in the sense that the cause is diminished because power essentially crushed it and it made the cause look exceedingly weak and incompetent, or it even made people afraid or discouraged them from engaging in such a process. The calculation of power is the first step in revolutionary activity, in resistant activity, non-violent resistant activity. Without this, we're dealing with revolt, we're dealing with impulse, we're dealing with individuals who they're not actually thinking about what they're doing, they're merely reacting. They become reactionaries to injustice, which is the easiest thing to do. The hardest thing to do is to step back and think about the system, think about the process, and try to find an ingenious way into the system so that the case can be made for change. That's the important thing, to find a space where resistance can work, where thought can work, where reason can work, where resistant activity can work to persuade and alter those mechanisms of power, those apparatuses of power, in such a way that the system and its power shifts back in the direction of freedom. So we're talking about the difference between a mindful activism versus a mindless activism, a rational activism versus an emotional activism. Thought is an extraordinary thing. If you apply it, it can show you the way. But you have to trust it. You have to know how to let it unfold things from within themselves. That's a dialectical critique. That's an immanent critique. And when that happens, the flaw in the system becomes apparent. It's not a clash from the outside. It's an internal flaw, a weakness that is seen from within the system.